everyone, and welcome to another video with Zenfi. Have you ever spent hours manually comparing invoices and purchase orders? It's a tedious, error-prone, and huge time drain for our finance teams. But what if you could automate the entire process? With Zenfi, this is possible, and today we're going to be walking through how you can build a very simple workflow that does just this. We'll use the power of AI, specifically Gemini, to be able to match documents and streamline this process. Let's get started. The first step is going to be to set up our trigger, which in this case is going to be a Zenfi form. You can add different fields to the form. You can also use a Google form if you prefer, but we have to make sure we add two different fields for file uploads. That way they can upload their purchase order as well as their invoice. Now let's move on to the actual process. Now, the traditional way that POs and invoices are handled is that basically someone has to open each document, look at each detail like the supplier names, the different line items, amounts, etc., and figure out if they match or they don't. This can be a very slow process, which is also prone to human error, and this can also delay payments. And this is exactly why we recommend automating this process to be able to give your finance team some time back on their hands. Now let's quickly run through the different steps that we're going to be looking at today. So first we have the actual submission of the documents. For this example, we're using a form, but you can change it for maybe a Google Drive submission, maybe they arrive through an email. Then we're going to analyze with AI to be able to extract key information and compare. And then AI is going to determine if the documents match or not, and if they don't match, it's going to find any discrepancies, be able to pinpoint exactly what those are. And then lastly, if they do match, we're going to make sure we send for payment, and if not, we want to make sure we notify the finance team of the discrepancies that were found within the documents. Now, the first action is going to help us analyze the finance documents. This one is called Generate Text with Gemini. There's different models that you can choose from. We have a place to be able to add system instructions as well as your prompt. Gemini is trained to understand the structure of invoices and purchase orders, so it's going to be able to accurately extract key details that you indicate, like for example the invoice number, the amount due, the PO number, etc. Then you're able to select the files that you want to use to analyze. So here you would click on the chain icon or token picker, and we can select both of the files from our form. So that my JSON response is more exact, I have also indicated a sample response of what I wanted to return. If you want the output in JSON, make sure you enable this option as well. Now, you may notice that within the Gemini action, there's a field called System Instructions. This field is completely optional, and we sometimes get the question as to what the difference between this and the prompt is. The System Instructions is going to allow you to be able to indicate how the action should act. You can indicate its tone, its expertise. For example, you may indicate to respond in the style of a Shakespearean play. You may indicate that they're a very helpful accountant. So within the system instructions, you can define the role as to who you want the action to adopt, set the tone, any specific constraints. So for this example, if you wanted to, we could indicate a simple system instruction. So you can indicate something as simple as this. You can also ask it to return in a beginner-friendly way if you wanted to explain something, so that can really help you take your action to the next level. Since the response is in JSON, we'll use JSON to object to be able to parse the different fields and be able to actually use these values within our flow. Now, based on AI's analysis, the flow is going to know what to do next. If it is a match, the workflow is going to proceed to payment processing. Meanwhile, if there's a discrepancy, it's going to trigger a notification to the finance team highlighting these different issues. And to do this, we're going to set up an if condition. So if I click on the gear here, click on the dials, when match status is equal to match, it's going to follow the true branch. So this is going to be the branch for payment processing. So then if it is a match, we first want to add it to a Zenfi table, which is going to allow us to create a dashboard, which I will show in a second as well. So all you have to do is use the create record action. You're going to select your table from the drop down. Then you're able to choose which fields you want to add, and you can add the values from the previous action. And we can find everything here. So just go one by one, adding each field where it belongs. And for payment status, I have put the status as send for payment. And now as a next step, I'm going to send a task to our finance team to be able to complete the payment. So here you're able to add a task name, description, you can change the outcomes, add a sender display name, and you can add the information found by AI as well using the token picker, and make sure you add the attachments from the form as well. Once they complete the task, we can go ahead and use the update record action to be able to update the status to paid. This is going to ensure that a task is automatically assigned to your finance team to make sure they review and complete the payment, and this task is going to include all of the relevant details and the documents needed to be able to do just this. However, if there's a mismatch, we want to make sure we add it to the queue, but we're going to change the status. So here we're using the same create record action, but in our match status column, I have set it to discrepancies found. Then we want to make sure we notify the finance team. This is done using the send email action, which is going to send an email on behalf of your Gmail account. For any action where you see this connection bar, you're going to need to set up a connection to be able to grant Zenfy permission to access your account. So all you have to do is click on the plus icon here to create a new connection, which can be private or shared. Simply click on authorize and follow the steps. You're able to customize the email in whichever way you want. You can add a sender display name, you can add any of the information found by Gemini, and you can also add the attachments down at the bottom. This is going to allow your finance team to be able to quickly investigate and resolve the issue. Let's go ahead and run an example. So I'm going to fill out the form. I'll go ahead and upload the documents, click on submit. And if we go to our Zenfy flow, we can see that it has started a new instance. It's analyzing the documents. And since it found that the fields match, it has sent for payment. And then they would receive a task to their email, which would have the information for the invoice, the two documents attached, the invoice and the purchase order. And after they complete the payment, they can simply click on completed, add any comments if needed, and click on submit. And now if we go back to the flow and we refresh, we can see that it has updated the status to paid. Here we can see what it would look like within our Zenfy table, and then you can easily use the data from your Zenfy table to create a dashboard within Zenfy with different widgets that allow you to see information in an easier fashion. For example, here you can easily see how many have been matched properly, how many had discrepancies, how many are waiting to be paid, for how much. So now a quick recap of why this automated workflow is so valuable. You're going to see increased efficiency since you're going to reduce the time spent on manual matching, which is also going to improve accuracy since we're minimizing human error. By doing the previous two things, it's also going to result in faster processing. And by creating a simple dashboard like the one seen on screen, you're also able to have a clear audit trail of the entire process, what stage everything is in. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments section and check out the rest of our videos for more ways that you can automate your workflow.